Lukas Gage, he is an actor. He's in White Lotus. He's refusing to identify his sexuality and it's causing him to get backlash over LGBTQ roles. My first question to you is, did you see something like this coming? Like where back in the day it was advantageous to hide your sexuality if you were gay. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're straight, you have to hide your sexuality or at least be ambiguous about it to allow yourself to keep getting roles without backlash.
Yeah. It makes me want you to have a casting director on the show because it'd be interesting.
I would love to talk to a major Hollywood. First of all, because I'd like to grill them about the quotas that seem to be in place now. Right. But also, I would like to ask them, look, do you feel like with all of no director wants a bunch of handcuffs on them, a bunch of handcuffs put on their work, right?
Yeah.
Do they ever feel like, are you an activist first and the handcuffs don't bother you? Mm-hmm. Or does all of these restrictions and quotas that are being put on your job hinder your ability to do your job well? And does it take the joy out of it?
Yeah. Well, I always heard that actually you don't want to cast someone who's too identical to the character they're supposed to play because they then can't pick up on some of the nuances, right?
Interesting.
Because it's difficult to be completely honest with yourself when you're evaluating yourself. Yeah. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's not necessarily a bad thing. And so actually having someone who doesn't share the same identity super intensely might be positive. More and more we hear, oh, well, we're from the same part of the country, and so that was good. Or I also shared this experience.
No, we're both gay, therefore it's good. Or
right.
We're both,
I think that's sort of weird.
No, it's very weird.
I understand it when it's like race swapping stuff, right? Like if you cast Tom Cruise as
Jafar,
maybe I don't know. I don't know. But with sexuality, I think
we should cast Tom Cruise as everyone.
I think it's weird that Hollywood is an industry where you would have to disclose your sexuality to get a job. But in the rest of America, we would feel horrified if you went to apply for an accounting firm and they were like, "But are you gay? Tell us if you're gay." If you're gay, you get the job. If you don't, you don't get it.
Well, no, now they do that because they're like, well, what race are you so that we can have you for the brochure?
Right, but that's still weird.
Yep, it
With
is.
race, at least it's something you're sort of seeing on the surface. Everyone can disclose at their own will, but like sexuality is so personal that it feels weird.
Yeah, but they are making it public. Hollywood's obsessed with making sexuality
But that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, it's weird that Hollywood would denounce any other industry in the world. They would make a movie saying how terrible it was if the bakery in Arkansas said, oh, well, we're Christian-based, so we can't hire you because you're gay. They would be all about it. But then they are saying, well, actually, you should tell us if you're gay because then we are likely to cast you. And if you don't tell us your sexuality, you're actually potentially inhibiting, I don't know, social progress. Like, it just seems so hypocritical in a way.
Well, now they
and
can
uncomfortable.
You can just pretend and you just say I'm bisexual, and then they can't technically prove otherwise.
But why should you have to lie about it? Like, if you are
because
the best,
it's 2023 and we have gone
right. But
nuts
if you are the
as a
best
society.
person for the role, if you can carry the story, and perhaps because you have to think critically and empathize with what it'd be like to be in that person's position, you are better qualified to carry off the character.
I think part of that though is that like it's such a subjective art form that best person for the role becomes very hard to prove. That's why.
Well, and there are a lot of people who, like, do you ever see the test pilot recordings when they're auditioning people for different roles? Mm-hmm. Like the ones for The Office are kind of popular on YouTube, and you'll see
the one for Hugh Laurie when he tested for House.
Yeah, but then with like The Office, everyone knows John Krasinski as Jim, but there were other people who auditioned to be him, or like Rainn Wilson, right? Yep. Rainn Wilson plays an iconic Dwight. There's very specific mannerisms, but other people did audition and they have their own interpretation of it. And if they had decided if the casting directors had decided they were a better fit, that's where it would have gone, right? Yeah. Like, I don't know that what they're saying is like you are taking jobs away from gay people who should be given priority when playing gay roles. But I think that's a very weird paradox to adopt for something that is supposed to be interpreting characters who are not real, right? Yeah. It's not really the same thing.
And also the story is like, if the idea here is that they could only understand your story because they're of the same sexuality, Are you also from the same region that this character was from? Did you live the exact same life that this character's from? Why is one trait inherently something that only one person can identify? But me being from Minnesota, can only people from Minnesota play characters from Minnesota? That doesn't make any sense any more than it does the other way.
I just wish that like we weren't. Was it the kid from Stranger Things? He's like Noah something.
Centennial?
One of these young actors, I think it was him, came out as gay, but they put up this thing, be like, well, way to force me out of the closet. Like I didn't want to have to talk about this, but yeah. I don't know if it was Noah or if it was someone else, but it's sort of like, so you're saying you were pressured to come out, even though it's not something you want to talk about, because otherwise people attack you for playing a role that actually you're very successful in. People are happy. They wouldn't want to take you out. They just want you to share these traits with the characters because they're developing a parasocial relationship with you.
Yep. So the interviewer, so we're going to talk a little bit about this part. So it says the interviewer referenced a moment last year when he responded to someone on Twitter accusing him of exactly that. And they're saying he's stealing opportunities from people in the LGBTQ community. He says, you don't know my alphabet, which is a hilarious comeback. That's such a 2023 thing to say.
It's a good line though.
You don't know my alphabet. He adds, I understand representation and voices that need to be heard, but I don't want to do anything on anyone's accord but my own. Let me do it when I'm ready and it's acting. I feel like everyone should get the opportunity to play whatever character they want. Look, I was watching episodes of Torchwood over the weekend with Captain Jack Harkness, played by John Barrowman. Well, John Barrowman, who is gay in real life, plays that character who's, I think, one of the earliest versions of a pansexual in Hollywood, if I remember correctly. He'll essentially sleep with anything in that show. But he also played Malcolm Merlyn on Arrow, in which he plays a grief-stricken father whose wife dies at the hands of gang violence and then loses his own son to his own dastardly crimes because he's driven mad out of grief for the loss of his wife. Is he only allowed to play gay characters because the actor is gay? Can he not understand? Would that love for his wife be any different than the love he would have had for the husband if they had made it a husband in that show? No, it wouldn't have mattered. Because he understands that he's acting and he's portraying more than just sexuality. He's portraying love. He's portraying grief. He's portraying madness. He's portraying all sorts of things. And there's so much more to it than just the base level idea of who you sleep with.
Yeah.
And it's so weird that something that seems so unimportant a decade ago is now held in such high regard by so many people in these industries.
I don't know. I feel like this is the death of Hollywood, where it's more about who's behind the camera than who is like what is being portrayed on the screen.
Absolutely.
You know, I just feel like in some ways, what doesn't matter except for the activist class.
Yeah.
If the story is good and it's powerful, and especially if you feel like he's playing an LGBT character and advancing some sort of important conversation about it, if he does a good job, what does it matter who he is off camera?
What will end up having to happen is eventually, when these filmmakers are making these stories, first of all, they're pressured into putting things into their stories so that these people can get cast. So it's like maybe someone writes a story and they're like, well, where's the LGBTQ representation?
Right.
Where is this representation? Where's that representation? Eventually, what will have to happen is powerful directors or principal directors will have to say, that stuff's important. That's not the story I'm telling.
Right.
And then cast whoever. If you write a role that's nothing but straight people and you cast a bunch of gay actors, fine. If you make a movie that's a bunch of gay characters, I want to know if we will ever, like, remember they made Bros, right? And it was all gay actors and they made this gay romance that nobody went and saw. Would people have thought differently about it if they had hired some straight actors to be like straight actors? That was a big thing in Hollywood 5-7 years ago. Straight actors wanting gay roles because they felt like it made them Oscar worthy, right?
Yeah, that was a thing for a while. And then it was like you're co-opting our culture to benefit yourselves professionally. Like my question would be, at what point does the marketing team admit that these quotas, this idea that we have to have certain stories in every kind of story aren't working? Right?
I would love to hear.
Bros didn't do well at the box office. So this idea that like we need to have a gay rom-com, I mean, it's hard to say, right? Like what is the actual realistic amount of money such a niche movie for a niche audience will make? We don't expect, just typical rom-coms about women to make as much money as a Marvel movie
Yeah.
that's supposed to be for a huge age group and bring the entire family and whatever else. Like,
not when they're making them on $100 million budgets.
no. And at what point do we just say, like, these storylines aren't working, so we stop producing them? And I think they never will, because they are completely handcuffed to this idea that we need to, as Hollywood, it's our job to tell stories that don't get told, except for when we have the chance to
make a bunch of money,
explore different cultures and tell stories about mermaids from local lore in different parts of the world. Then we just want to stick to the one we already co-opted. Like, it doesn't, they're talking out of both sides of their mouth.
It's funny because it feels like more and more entertainment, not just Hollywood, but somebody was talking, I don't remember who mentioned this to me recently. Justin Bieber was probably the last musical act that was allowed to just be unapologetically straight.
Mm-hmm. When he was like a weird childy boy. That's the worst part.
But he had an all-girl fan base.
Oh, yeah,
and
for sure.
That was like, they don't allow that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be ambiguous. So, and it's like, on one hand, I weirdly...
Well, you know who has a huge female fan base? Harry Styles.
Yeah, ambiguous.
But we have to pretend that's not true. Probably because all his fans are 12 and he's like an almost 30-year-old man.
But also because he also appeals to gay. They want him to appeal to queer children. Which is...
See, at what point, like with all of this, are we saying that people should push themselves to consider being gay to fit in with culture? Or in this case,
we're
like,
already there.
If you really want a job as an actor, you should maybe just drop in an audition that you are in fact gay and you're more likely to get a role.
Were you on the episode of IRL? It's like one of the few times I've caught it recently where Libby mentioned like there's no American traditions left. Like coming out.
I 100% believe that.
Coming out is like the last, like you're not allowed to have 60, all the traditions. You can't have prom king and queen. Prom king and queen is problematic because it's king and queen. Mm-hmm. You can't do any of the traditions.
You crown the gay guy in your school prom queen. Like, it's all kinds of weird stuff that actually feels very, I don't know, inconsiderate and rude, right? Like, it just seems like we'll destroy everything before we accept that maybe we have made a wrong decision here.
It's happened too fast for anyone to believe for a second that it's organic. The amount of our population that is now identifying a certain way when that was just not the truth. Not what it was. Mm-hmm. And we can argue all day about, they just feel more comfortable. I believe social contagion is a far more applicable answer. And what is the best way to spread social contagion? Hollywood, music, culture. Yeah. Politics is not where this stuff happens. Tim and them talk about it once it reaches policy level. Once it gets to the point where it's falling into your bills that have to do with drag queen story hour and stuff like that. This has happened for decades before this. Whether you want to talk about David Bowie, whether you want to talk about Prince, people who were not gay but were androgynous. Or was David Bowie gay? I don't know if David Bowie was gay.
I think he's bisexual.
But the point is, androgynous and Hollywood in general has attracted artsy types. Artsy types tend to fall in that category. So it's not hard to believe that they would be overrepresented in that culture, right?
Makes sense.
So, what are you saying?
Oh, someone put in prom them in the chat, and I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, prom they them. They're saying Justin Bieber is Miley Cyrus's drag king persona.
That's
Look,
funny.
I've always had a soft spot for Justin Bieber. I have no problem with Justin Bieber. Dude made a crap ton of money at a very young age, and he's Canadian. You can't hate Canadians, can you? You can hate Trudeau. You're allowed to hate Trudeau.
Canadians are people too. You could hate them if you needed to.
It's I don't have I just remember being like, oh, he's peeing in mop buckets. He's just going through his rebellious phase.
Yeah, his I made a lot of money as a young kid and now I'm freaking out phase.
And now he's
an American tradition.
Now he's married and he's also religious. He was also like probably the last one that'll be allowed to be like inherently religious.
I think there's like quite a few pseudo-religious celebrities out there right now. But
I was also thinking of like, because I was, when somebody, I think it was Mary that pointed out, said Justin Bieber was the last artist that was allowed to be like a heartthrob that was straight. I was like, even Bad Bunny.
I don't think that's true.
Even Bad Bunny now comes to award shows in dresses and pretends to be non-binary.
But he doesn't pretend to be non-binary. He dresses androgynously, which is something that, as you pointed out with David Bowie, is something that's already been done. He's not like holding hands with guys. He's not pulling a Madonna and kissing Britney Spears on the lips at an award show. Like, he's not co-opting gay culture in so far as he's looking for a male partner. I mean, I think of like Harry Styles' origin, right? One Direction. Like, they were all just straight guys. I guess they were popular around the same time as Justin Bieber.
Yeah, I think of them as like the same time.
We had a whole age of pop boy celebrities. It's just that fashion has changed, and so in some ways they're presenting in ways that I would think of as,
I think the culture has changed and thus the fashion has changed with it.
Yeah, but I don't think that any one of them is actually pretending to be gay in a way that like someone who's trying to get a role in a TV show
somebody like
might feel obligated to in order to get cast.
Harry Styles gets accused of queer baiting all the time.
Yeah, like he definitely is. But again, he's not holding hands with Matt Healy skipping on the streets of London. Like, he is he's dating Olivia Wilde, or he was, right? Like, he is in every indication not pretending to hide his sexuality. He's totally straight. He just dresses androgynously.
Somebody in the chat says, Bad Bunny, didn't he kiss a guy? I have no idea, but if so, there you go.
It's really above my pay grade to know these things.
What the F is a Bad Bunny? I used to say the same thing. Bad Bunny is huge. Like, 3 years in a row has been the #1 streaming artist on Spotify, and is apparently like a god in Puerto Rico or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
he's really big in like Spanish speaking countries.
Yeah, like that's what it is. So, you know what? I think for this, it's interesting because for a lot of these actors in the past, they wouldn't have wanted to be judged based on their sexuality. And when you make it the racial argument, the funny thing we talk about is like merit will always win out. There's a reason why nobody cares about race swapping when it's Denzel Washington or when it's Morgan Freeman or when it's Samuel L. Jackson, because in the end, even the most like based of person can understand that, like, look, this person draws money. I don't like it, but I get it. But when you race swap a character for somebody that no one's ever heard of, it's so very clearly pandering. Yeah. So if you just race swap and cast known people, you have an out in your excuses. Like, look, maybe he's not the best person for the job, maybe he is, but he's gonna make us a lot of money. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.